Don't eat at In-N-Out Burger again until you watch this, because the clean, simple reputation has a blind spot.
It is official. Washington's first In-N-Out Burger is now open. David, are you excited?
I am. I can't wait to go south to get it, I guess. We sent Fox 13's AJ Janavel to Richfield to get a first-hand look at the excitement for the new burger spot.
And it shows up in your total and your consistency. The menu looks straightforward, but just one more add-on quietly turns a basic order into a heavier, pricier meal. And the freshness window is real. This system rewards perfect timing and punishes delays, so the same order can swing from amazing to disappointing without you changing a thing. In the next few minutes, you'll learn what to watch for before you even unwrap the food. The line and timing cues that predict quality, plus 2 things you can check yourself on their posted nutrition and ingredient pages that explain where the simple story breaks. You'll know exactly how to order for satisfaction without stacking extras, and how to avoid paying full price for the underwhelming version. The total is the trap. The menu is designed to feel frictionless. You see a few classic items, you pick one, and you assume you're getting predictable value. That's the promise. The reality is that the total is where the surprise lives, because the culture around ordering here trains people to stack just one more thing. Here's receipt 1 you can actually check. The company publishes nutrition information that shows a standard burger is one number, and the moment you layer cheese, spread, and extras, the calorie and sodium picture shifts fast. Their official nutrition document breaks out core items like the double burger and fries, and it's clear that simple menu does not mean light meal. That is not a moral judgment. It is just math on a published chart. Receipt 2 is the ingredient list for the spread on the official menu nutrition page. The spread is not just a little sauce. It is a full ingredient panel that includes preservatives and flavoring language that most people never associate with a place they call clean. Again, that does not make it evil. It just means the halo is stronger than the reality. The consequence is subtle, but real. You're ordering by identity instead of intention. The choice isn't being made in the moment. It's being made by habit. What feels like a small upgrade is often just repetition. You're not especially hungry for more. You're recreating a version of the order that once felt right. By the time you see the total, you've paid for a larger meal than you planned, with extras you never paused to question. That happens because the system removes friction. Familiarity does the work for you. To stay in control, decide what the meal is before you reach the counter. Pick the one indulgence you actually care about, then let everything else support it instead of competing with it, because the next trap doesn't show up on the receipt, it shows up in the bag. Portion consistency is a bigger deal than fans admit. Fast food loyalty depends on repeatable outcomes. You walk in expecting the same bite you got last time because that's what makes you come back. That's the promise. The reality is that the most complained about item here is also the item that looks the most simple, the fries. Receipt 1 is from the chain's own nutrition information. Fries are listed as potatoes, prepared fresh in 100% sunflower oil. That fresh prep line matters, because it means the outcome is heavily dependent on timing, temperature, and turnover. Fresh systems can be great, but they are also more variable than reheated systems. Receipt 2 is not a corporate document, but it is still useful when framed correctly. High-volume customer reviews, social posts, and photos repeatedly describe the same pattern: fries that are either excellent or limp, with not much in between. That is anecdotal, not proof. But when a complaint repeats across locations and years, it becomes a pattern worth planning around as a consumer. The consequence is value uncertainty. One visit delivers fries that feel fresh, crisp, and worth building a meal around. Another visit hands you something softer, heavier, already slipping past its peak before you even find a seat. The order hasn't changed, yet the outcome has, which is where frustration creeps in. You start questioning whether it was the location, the timing, or your own expectations. If texture matters to you, the only way to protect that experience is to treat fries like a timing-sensitive item. Ask for them prepared a little longer and plan to eat them the moment they're handed over, not after a drive or a long wait at the table. But once you start adjusting to chase that perfect version, you're stepping into the next system where secret menu culture quietly turns preference into spending. The secret menu is not a secret, it's a behavior hack. People talk about customization like it is an insider perk. You learn a phrase, you feel initiated, and you assume the kitchen is doing something special just for you. That's the promise. The reality is that customization mainly changes ratios, and ratios change perceived value more than actual quality. Receipt 1 is the official nutrition information again, because it indirectly confirms what matters most. The spread, the cheese, and the patty count are where the bulk of the calories and sodium accumulate. When you modify the build, you are mostly moving those levers. Receipt 2 comes from the official allergen information document. It makes something very clear. The spread contains egg, the buns vary by region, and standard items carry common allergens that can matter even for people who do not consider themselves allergic. The point is not fear. The point is that secret menu ordering often ignores the actual ingredients and focuses on vibes. The consequence is that the meal drifts away from what you thought you were ordering. Each small customization feels harmless on its own, yet together they quietly stack into something heavier, saltier, and more filling than you planned, all while the order still feels simple in your head. The language stays clean, the menu stays short, so your brain never gets the signal to reassess. The only way to keep that from happening is to give your customization a single job. Decide what you're actually trying to improve before you order. Maybe you want more protein. Maybe you want less mess. Maybe you want the meal to sit lighter afterward. Let that one goal guide the change, then stop there, because the next part pulls back the clean eating curtain entirely, and once you see what's inside those simple items, the brand story stops doing the thinking for you. The clean halo cracks where nobody looks. This place has a reputation for doing things the old-fashioned way. You hear fresh, you hear quality, and you imagine fewer modern additives. That's the promise. The reality is more nuanced. Some parts are exactly what fans claim, and other parts look like standard fast food once you read the fine print. Receipt 1 is the company's own food quality messaging, which states they do not freeze, pre-package, or microwave their food. That is a strong, clear statement, and it is a meaningful differentiator for certain items. Receipt 2 is the ingredient listing for the spread on the official nutrition page. It includes preservative language and the phrase natural and artificial flavors. You do not have to panic about those words, but you also should not pretend they are not there. A clean halo is not the same thing as a clean label. The consequence is expectation whiplash. People celebrate the freshness story, then feel caught off guard when a condiment reads like a modern factory product. The disconnect isn't scandal, it's assumption. Simple branding makes it easy to stop checking details. If you're trying to keep things lighter or cleaner, condiments are the quiet leverage point. They carry more salt, density, and processing than most people realize. Going lighter on spread, or defaulting to ketchup or mustard, keeps the meal closer to what you thought you were ordering. Now that the receipts are on the table, let's hear from the people who order here every week. If you have a go-to order, it is about to explain you back to you. You have probably built a default here that feels safe, fast, and satisfying. Drop your exact go-to order in the comments, the full build, and whether you do spread or not. If you want more breakdowns like this, subscribe, not for drama, but for shopping and ordering shortcuts that help you spend less money and leave with fewer regrets. Because next, we have to talk about the one change most people felt, but few people connect to the bigger system. And once we talk about what changed outside the restaurant, the price story starts making sense. The price creep is real, but the reason is complicated. People notice the total rising and assume it is one thing: greed. That is the simple story. The reality is usually a stack of pressures. And in California, one pressure is not subtle. Receipt 1 is documented policy. California implemented a higher wage floor for fast food workers at large chains starting April 1st, 2024. That policy has been analyzed by researchers, including a report from the University of California, Berkeley's Institute for Research on Labor and Employment, that discusses wages, employment, and prices after the change. Whatever your politics, the consumer takeaway is straightforward. Labor costs often show up as price adjustments, sometimes small, sometimes uneven. Receipt 2 is industry reporting and economic research that debates the size of those price effects. Some analyses find limited price increases and minimal employment changes. Others argue job losses or bigger impacts. The point here is not picking a side. The point is that when costs shift, menus often shift too, sometimes quietly. The consequence is that the old idea of this being a cheap automatic stop starts to fall behind reality. Prices shift quietly, totals creep upward, and your mental benchmark stays stuck in the past. You walk in expecting one number, then adjust after the fact instead of before. The only way to stay aligned is to treat the total as something that moves. Recheck it every few visits, rather than trusting the price memory you built years ago. Once you do that, the pattern becomes obvious. Follow that pattern far enough, and the menu's simplicity stops feeling like tradition and starts revealing itself as a deliberate strategy. The menu is frozen, so behavior moves instead. A short, simple menu creates confidence. You scan it, you act fast, and you walk away thinking you've just made a clean, smart choice. The visual quiet of that board is part of the brand's charm. Yet, that stillness isn't just aesthetic. It's a system that shifts more responsibility onto you than you think. The operational benefit is obvious. Fewer choices mean faster lines, tighter inventory, and streamlined training. Still, there's something else happening underneath that efficiency. The system stays stable while your order subtly evolves. You don't notice the creep in calories, cost, or complexity because the menu isn't throwing 20 new items in your face. It's letting you modify yourself into a more expensive, heavier meal without red flags. Receipt 1 is pulled straight from the company's official brand messaging. Across interviews, websites, and press kits, there's a clear through line. Limited menu, fresh prep, no microwaves, no freezers. These facts have become the shorthand for quality in the consumer's mind, even though they say very little about the actual meal outcome. They tell you what's not used. They don't tell you what your add-ons might be doing. Receipt 2 is the full nutrition breakdown, publicly posted. It shows that the core structure burger, cheese, fries, spread remains unchanged. Yet the combinations of those elements allow for significant escalation. Add one patty, one slice, one extra topping, and you've moved into premium fast food territory, all without ever switching to a different item. This is where value slips through quietly. You think you're ordering something familiar, same sandwich, same size, same stop, but one small add-on turns into a routine. That routine grows. You add fries because you always do. You grab a shake because it feels like part of the full experience. Before long, the simple meal has turned into something heavier, pricier, and harder to explain. Not because you were upsold, but because the system let the habit run on autopilot. The better move is to build around a single highlight. Let one thing, either the sandwich or the shake, do the work of making the meal feel satisfying. Let the rest follow, not compete. That's when what shows up in the bag starts to matter more than what's printed on the board. And the next shift isn't just about what you ordered, it's about when you ordered it. The fresh system creates peaks and valleys. Freshness can be an upgrade, but it's not a guarantee. It rewards rhythm, timing, pacing, turnover. When that rhythm is tight, everything sings. When it's off, even a perfectly designed process will produce a meal that feels off mark. The fries are a perfect case study. Receipt 1 comes from the official nutrition panel, which outlines their process clearly. Potatoes, cut in store, cooked in sunflower oil. No stabilizers, no frozen backup supply. On paper, it's a fresh food dream. In reality, it's a quality gamble tied to minute-by-minute prep conditions. Now, bring in receipt 2 official brand statements that emphasize the absence of microwaves, heat lamps, or frozen inventory. These choices were designed to preserve the idea of freshness. They also remove the safety nets that other chains use to lock in consistency. When you eliminate those nets, you get brilliance in one visit and sogginess the next. The customer rarely blames the system. Instead, they blame the worker, the store, the line speed. Yet, it's the system itself that creates these peaks and valleys. No backup means timing becomes everything. A 3-minute delay between cut and fry, that's enough to dull the edge. A lunch rush that blows through the oil change cycle, there goes the crispness. A late night with fewer hands on deck, the same potato, in the same oil, will feel like a completely different experience. The consequence is emotional whiplash. One visit reinforces why you trust this place. The next quietly undermines it. The order looks identical, yet the experience doesn't land the same, leaving you unsure whether the problem was the food, the timing, or your own expectations. That uncertainty is what erodes loyalty fastest. When you want the indulgent version to actually feel worth it, timing matters more than most people realize. Visits that line up with steady staffing and smooth kitchen rhythm tend to deliver the version everyone remembers, not the one that disappoints. Once timing is part of the equation, the guesswork starts to fade. And the next step isn't about restraint, it's about control. What to do instead. The 2-question order framework. People often talk about fast food in terms of morality, good food versus bad food, clean eating versus cheating. That mindset gets in the way. This isn't about guilt. It's about getting what you came for without the extras that leave you tired, bloated, or annoyed an hour later. Let's look at the receipts again. The nutrition breakdown shows very clearly that the leap from 1 patty to 2 isn't a small step, it's a jump. Add cheese, and it compounds. Add spread, and you've rebalanced the entire nutritional profile in a single swipe. This doesn't mean you should never order the indulgent version. It means that if you do, you need to pair it with a lighter frame elsewhere. The second receipt comes from the ingredient label on the spread. This is where the perception gap shows. Most fans describe the spread as simple, homemade, or just a little sauce. The label, meanwhile, includes preservatives, flavorings, and emulsifiers that would draw scrutiny in another setting. The disconnect isn't dishonesty, it's branding. The system depends on the customer feeling reassured enough not to ask questions. Here's the framework that keeps you in control. Question 1. Are you ordering for satisfaction per bite or lightness per meal? Question 2. Do you want texture and crisp or softness and melt? If you want satisfaction, keep the spread, the grilled onions, the cheese. Let the burger deliver that richness. Then drop the shake. If you want lightness, drop the second patty, drop the cheese, and see how much of that satisfaction was actually just familiarity. This works because it creates a pause. Just a few seconds of awareness is enough to break the autopilot that usually takes over. That small reset often saves you from hours of feeling overly full, unsatisfied, or wondering why the meal didn't hit the way you expected. Enjoying the food doesn't require stacking everything at once. You can keep the flavor, the familiarity, and the ritual while quietly letting go of the pieces that no longer add much to the experience. When the order is intentional instead of automatic, the result feels lighter, cleaner, and more satisfying without feeling like a compromise. For those who want that balance without overthinking it every time, the next chapter maps out specific, safe orders that still feel like the full experience, the safer picks that still feel like the real thing. People fear that ordering smarter means ordering sad. That's the promise of the classic build, that you need everything to get the real experience. The reality is that a few small choices preserve the identity while reducing the downside. Receipt 1 is the nutrition information again. A single burger build is meaningfully different from a double build once you factor cheese and spread. The chart makes it hard to argue otherwise. Receipt 2 is the allergen information document. It highlights where common ingredients live, especially in spread and buns. Even if you are not allergic, that document is your clue that these components are doing a lot of the heavy lifting. Start by removing one variable so your body can actually register what's changing. Keeping the same burger size visit after visit gives you a reliable baseline. Once that stays fixed, the impact of toppings becomes obvious instead of blurred together. You notice what actually adds satisfaction and what just adds weight. Fries deserve a different rule entirely. They're built for immediacy, not patience. Fresh systems reward timing and punish delay, which means fries only make sense when you can eat them the moment they're handed to you. If they're going to sit in a bag, ride in a car, or wait while you multitask, they rarely deliver what you're expecting. When it comes to flavor, restraint often works better than stacking. Grilled onions, a lighter hand with spread, or one focused add-on can give you depth without tipping the meal into heaviness. The goal isn't to finish everything, it's to finish feeling good about it. Order for the version of the meal you'll enjoy all the way through, not the version you think you're supposed to want. Because the last truth about this place is the one most fans don't like to say out loud. And once it's said, the loyalty makes a lot more sense. You're paying for a story, not just food. Nostalgia is not fake. Community is not fake. A brand can genuinely deliver a better experience than competitors while still having trade-offs. That's the promise of loyalty. The reality is that loyalty can also blur your ability to notice when value shifts. Receipt 1 is the chain's public commitment messaging about freshness and not using microwaves or freezers. That story is part of why people trust the brand, and it is backed by their own words. Receipt 2 is the spread ingredient listing and the nutrition document. Together, they show the tension between old-fashioned identity and modern fast food reality. The chain is not hiding a villain plot. The chain is running a highly optimized system that relies on you to make choices you do not always notice. The consequence is that habit takes over. You keep defending the same order, even when it no longer fits how you eat or how you feel afterward. Loyalty turns into autopilot, and the routine stays in place longer than it should. Treat loyalty like a guide, not a contract. Let it bring you to the place, not lock you into the same choice. One question reveals everything. If your order never changes, what is it really serving? This chain is still one of the most reliable fast food stops in California, just not the loophole many people think it is. The calm menu can hide how fast totals add up, the fresh system can create real swings from visit to visit, and the clean image doesn't always line up with what shows up on the label. None of that means you have to stop going. It just means going in with a framework instead of autopilot. Pick one indulgence, let everything else support it, and the experience stays satisfying without the afterthought regret. I want to hear how this lines up with real habits. What is your exact go-to order here, and do you think it still hits the same as it did a few years ago? Drop it in the comments. If this helps you think differently about what you order, like the video and subscribe. This channel is about giving you shortcuts that save money, avoid disappointment, and make familiar places easier to navigate.